This is $20 million in cash right here. Here's $300,000 in singles, $30 million in $100 bills.
Whether it's cash, gold, or digital bits, we all know that money makes the world go round. And what that money is worth depends on trust. Trust that the engines that power it all won't fail.
I'm Jake Ward, and for the first time, National Geographic is going to take you inside the system.
Places that you're not allowed to bring a camera, straight into the vaults of the world's largest stash of what you want, need, and bust your butt to get.
Money.
One of the places that truly controls money is the Central Bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve. They count it, store it, move it, inflate it, deflate it, destroy, stabilize, lend, and buy it, and make a profit off of it. But above all, they protect it. And it's not just cash. For over 80 years, armored vehicles have navigated Manhattan's narrow streets, carrying millions and sometimes billions in gold deposits in and out of the one Federal Reserve Bank trusted enough to guard almost 1/4 of the world's entire gold supply. You heard it right. Nearly 25% lives here at 33 Liberty Street. Today, a hefty deposit is on its way in, and this driver is the first line of defense. For obvious reasons, we can't really tell you his name, but he's not alone. His partners are armed, and the vehicle itself is like a vault on wheels, able to withstand bullets, even hand grenades. Delivery is a well-choreographed and deadly serious exchange between the driver and the Federal Reserve's police force. This small stack may not look like much, but if you tried to put it in the back of your car, you'd blow out the tires.
There are a lot of guns here right now. It's kind of nerve-wracking to be around it.
The gold is met at the loading dock by the Fed's vault auditor and its custodians.
We have over a ton of gold right here, and street value today is over $55 million.
Are you still into gold? Like, does gold have an effect on you emotionally, or are you sick of gold?
You never get sick of the gold.
Yeah, really?
It puts a smile on people's faces when they come down to see it, and even puts a smile on our face when we're down there working with it. It just never loses its luster.
Our camera crew is making a normally smooth exchange a little hectic.
They're obviously a little nervous about it because this is a first. There's not a lot of hanging out with the gold just sitting here.
After sorting out who's allowed to go inside with the cameras, they get down to the business of making the deposit. There's an almost sacred ritual that handlers go through when moving gold. It's all very quiet and solemn, no chit-chat or small talk. The armored truck company's drivers are fully responsible for the gold as they descend 80 feet below street level to the world's largest underground gold vault. Only at the entrance does it officially become the keep of the New York Fed. And this is the way it's been done since the Fed first opened the vault in 1924. The New York Bank is one of 12 that make up the Federal Reserve System. Together, they're like the ultimate piggy bank, a place where your bankers bank. And if there's a financial panic, the Fed acts as a lender of last resort. That creates a kind of trust in the entire system. So from the beginning, Fed banks were built to look imposing, like fortresses of money. The New York Fed's vault rests on bedrock to handle the weight of the gold. Engineers dreamed up an ingenious way to guard it. A 90-ton steel cylinder that revolves vertically in a 140-ton steel and concrete frame. When it rotates, it drops 3/4 of an inch to create an air and watertight seal. No one person is given all of the combinations or keys to the various locking systems, so someone is always watching.
So now there's 3 of you. It takes 3 people to open the door?
Yeah.
I see.
2 vault custodians and an auditor.
Welcome to about a quarter of the world's official gold supply. Just one of these bars is worth $640,000. So we're talking upwards of $380 billion. The bars are weighed on a good old-fashioned balance scale.
Once everything's on,
Yeah.
you're going to turn the crank.
Okay, okay.
It's going to be a little, not that difficult, but a little bit, because all that weight will be on it.
It's a critical step because each bar is slightly different, making each deposit unique. The scale measures down to 1/100th of an ounce. That's about 1/3 of a paper bill. Still, that's worth about $17. Ron here has stood as guardian of the gold for 40 years.
This is the year in which the bars were cast. This is the purity, and this is the maker of the bar, the assayer, and this is a serial number. Each bar has to have its own serial number.
What happens if you drop a bar like this on your feet?
If you don't have this on, you'll be in the hospital.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm about to pick up $640,000. That is a life-changing sum of money. Whoa, whoa. It is so much heavier than you think it's gonna be.
Gold is very dense.
Wow. So whose gold are we handling right now?
Country, central bank.
Do you know? I mean, can we tell from looking
Oh,
at
no,
this?
we can't tell.
You can't tell me?
No.
I see. There are rules about that kind of thing.
The Fed's discretion and intense security are so trusted that few depositors have ever even asked to see if their gold is still here.
So let's say that, you know, one of these bars got out of the vault, God forbid, and out into the street, and somebody melted it down. Would there be any way of identifying this gold again?
Not if they melted it down.
No.
But if they tried to sell it like this here, they would find out.
For thousands of years, people used gold as money. And why not? It's shiny, it's pretty, and like the man said, once you melt it down, it's untraceable. Or put another way, it's the perfect recyclable money. One of the places where this precious metal's given new life is New York's Diamond District.
On these 2 blocks of New York, $24 billion in cash changes hands every year. We've negotiated access to get behind the storefronts to see how everybody from low-end street dealers to high-end brokers are dealing in gold.
Hello. Hello, how you doing, sir? Very good.
Alexandra Rogovsky has a hefty chunk of that $24 billion inside his bag.
Selling today?
Got some gold, got some silver bar.
He has gold to sell. a lot of it, and he's about to find out what it's all worth.
So I was wondering if you can tell me what I can get for this.
Надо что, пускай тянут, реально пускай скажут сумму. Когда если, послушай, если они 14 берут, пускай тянут и 3 недели. Is this 14?
Dmitry Nezhinsky is one of hundreds of brokers who work New York's gold district. Business is booming. When there's a financial crisis, people tend to look for security in gold.
Here is 18 karat.
Yeah, it goes up and down, but now it's better than other times because it just came up from 1,500, so you're selling it at the right time.
In 2010 alone, the price of gold hit record highs 22 times.
We pay top dollar for your gold.
The gold comes in from all walks of life, so it helps that Dmitry can speak 5 languages.
Around, you come back here, okay? 48, $14,064 for 14 karat gold. Then you have 10 karat gold. I can give you $1,800 for that.
The coin, this coin is the pure gold, right?
So this is $20,900. I'll give you $11 difference, so you could come back to us.
Thank you very much.
Dimitri?
Yes. Hi.
I'm Jake.
Hi. How are you?
Very
nice
nice
to meet you.
to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
And how much do you see in a day? How many people come through here?
In the day, it depends. It could be anywhere from 5 to 50, 70 people a day.
What happens to the gold once you've got it, right? You buy a day's worth of gold. What do you then do with it?
Once we buy gold, let's say we buy, this is about $25,000 worth of gold.
Okay.
Once we buy this gold, we melt it down to a small brick, and then we have it tested and sell it.
Can I watch you
Sure,
melt it down?
definitely, sure.
I'd like to see it.
Now most of the jewelry we have is 14 karat.
The nooks and crannies of the gold district are full of places like this. Millions of dollars flowing in and out. Some, like Dimitri's, even have a foundry in the basement.
How are you, my friend? No. Oh my God, you serious?
It's the mayor, this guy.
Please, man, I wanted to melt it. Not ready? Okay.
It's kind of an amazing thing, right? This is, people's memories, their treasured heirlooms. Some of it was in the ground 1,000 years ago, some of it was a pair of earrings 1,000 years ago, and now it's all been melted back down again, and someday it will be somebody else's heirloom. It's crazy how liquid this really is. So, are you sick of gold? I mean, do you still like the look of gold?
I love it.
You do?
I love it, yeah.
You do?
Yeah, definitely. Who doesn't?
The gold that leaves here is recast and reborn as another person's treasure, continuing to make money along the way. And sometimes that treasure is a lot closer than you think. Every couple of hours, trillions of dollars change hands. All that money used to be backed by gold, but not anymore. Today, our buck is backed by a promise from the U.S. government. The fact that it all works based on trust alone is simply taken for granted.
Hi, good morning.
I'm trusting this driver with my money and my life, right? I'm trusting that he's not going to cheat me. I'm trusting he's going to take the fastest and most efficient route possible. And I'm trusting him not to kill us both. Ooh. That kind of trust is at the heart of the financial world. The whole system is built on the assumption that our cash and our credit cards and even our bank accounts are worth something. But what I want to know is, who's in charge? I've come to Washington, D.C. to meet the head of the entire Fed system.
You know, he's been dealt some of the most difficult cards in the history of finance.
You said that Mr. Bernanke just happens to be the most powerful nerd on the planet.
The Fed that was responsible for this. Sure, the Fed played a role.
Federal Reserve Chairman Bernanke is one of the most powerful men in the world when it comes to your money. He holds the reins to our central bank, an institution controlled by both the public and private sector.
Hello, how are you?
Good, thank
Welcome.
you. Thanks very much for making the time. I know you guys. What would life be like without the Federal Reserve?
We don't have to speculate. We know what it looked like because there was no Federal Reserve before 1913. During the 19th century, there were periodic financial crises where people would run to the banks and pull out their deposits, where the stock market would crash.
When most of us think of bank runs, we think of the stock market crash of 1929. But in 1907, a massive panic threatened to annihilate the economy. There was nothing the government could do to stop it, until billionaire J.P. Morgan and his rich friends tapped into their personal wealth to bail out the banks.
Which led Congress to say, look, enough is enough. We've got to have a central bank that can manage these crises. And that was the beginning of the process that led to the Federal Reserve.
You're in the Situation Room happening now. We're following breaking news.
Less than 2 years after Chairman Bernanke took office, he was faced with the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression.
In a panic, when people are pulling all their money out of financial institutions, what the central bank does is provide short-term loans, which help the banks stabilize. And that's what we did during 2008, 2009.
But what about those who don't agree with the Fed's actions?
They bail out Morgan Stanley and then Goldman Sachs. When I up, who bails me out? No one. And the Federal Reserve. And the fractional banking system. And the Fed.
If you ask most people, I think they would say that the Fed spent a lot of taxpayer money trying to stop the crisis and bailed out banks and that kind of thing. The fact is the Fed doesn't spend government money. What the Fed does is buy and sell assets in the market.
Those assets are U.S. Treasury bonds and government-guaranteed mortgage securities.
Or we make short-term loans, which are then repaid.
Loans repaid with interest.
In the last 3 years, the Fed has given the Treasury $200 billion. That's profit, that's not loss, that's not cost.
While decisions in Washington, D.C. affect the state of the nation's wallet, the Fed's 12 regional banks make sure there's enough physical cash to go around. Whether to fill new orders or replace your old worn-out bills, they call here, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Because when it comes to trusting your money, first appearances mean everything.
There are very particular rules for how we can shoot here. We can't show you the walls, we can't really shoot down the hallways, we have to keep it tight, and there's cameras everywhere. This is an incredibly secure facility.
The BEP fills annual print orders for the Fed. In 2011, that meant a whopping 23 million bills a day. And each bill gets a serial number and a code that tells which bank is charged for production.
If you look at any bill you have in your pocket, there's a small number and a letter together. Mine says C3. This series says F6. That stands for the Atlanta Federal Reserve Bank. And so you know that if the F and the number 6 don't correspond, F is the 6th letter in the alphabet, then that's a fake note.
Although it looks like money as it flies through the presses, it's not official until it's cut, wrapped, and sent to one of the 28 Federal Reserve operations centers around the country, where cash deliveries flow in and out by the ton. It's 7 a.m., and I just got dropped off in East Rutherford, New Jersey, at the New York Fed's Currency Operations Center, called EROC.
It's a neighborhood, you know, it looks pretty ordinary, except that in and out every day flows billions of dollars in cash. It looks like maybe a prison, could be a high school.
But what it really is one of the world's largest above-ground vaults. The entire facility is enclosed with a modest-looking fence. But don't let it fool you. This thing can stop a semi-truck dead in its tracks.
The building is also studded with over 800 cameras. They're watching our every move.
One of the beauties of the system is that when a door or an alarm goes off, it'll automatically generate that camera view onto our system, and that's how it's set up. That camera will turn and take a shot of wherever that alarm was, and some of the other cameras in the area, if they're pan and tilts, will also turn to the area of concern to make sure that we have extra eyes and a better quick view of what's going on.
And even if you got past all of that, you'd have to deal with this guy. The Fed has its own specially trained police force, and some of the facilities even have a private shooting range.
If the building were, just by itself with unarmed guards, do you think that would be enough? It feels to me like a really hard place to break into, even if everybody here was just carrying sort of batons. Do you need the guns?
Absolutely. That's what makes us a hard target. You have to understand something, that we're not the ones that set the standards. The people who want to do damage to the facility or the people are the ones that do. We just react to what they do. Even though we're very proactive, we still don't set the standards the bad guys do.
If you've ever spent $1 in cash in New York City, that dollar has probably been through this building. This is the hub of all physical currency that would move through this area.
It's where your bankers bank. Deposits come in and withdrawals go out to the tune of millions each day. It's entered by the bagful into the Fed's accounts. It's then moved to a vault that can hold tens of billions.
This is $20 million in cash right here in 50s and 100s. Here's $300,000 in singles. Here's $1.5 million in fives. There's room behind me for 5,400 of these boxes, controlled by a robotic system.
It's like the movie Wall-E in here, except they're pushing cash instead of trash. The robots operate independently, guided entirely by laser positioning. And it's not just about security. They actually save the Fed money in manpower. Cash, especially coin, weighs tons.
Here, this is the reject reel. This is for any suspected counterfeit notes, wrong denominator. That reel.
At EROC, Bob Krause is in charge of the whole shebang.
Brought over here to the...
And what comes in and out of currency ops is his domain.
It's $1,000 in quarters. This is $1,000 in quarters right here. Holy cow, that's a lot of money. That is. This is parking meters for the year for me.
And laundry.
And laundry, all done right now. Wow.
Oh, so this is where the nation's loose change ends up.
Do you find yourself sort of just personally casting pennies aside the way I do, or do you think about it differently than that?
Oh, I think about it differently, just like I think about the dollar bills differently. When I take my money in my pocket, I fold it up nice and neatly, whereas opposed to other people that don't. And the same thing with pennies. To me, it's all, I have a different perspective on it.
In the real world, our cash takes a lot of abuse, but it still has a long lifespan. Thanks in part to a small team of stress testers in Washington, D.C.
American currency needs to be not just an enduring symbol, but it actually has to endure. The durability of money
is part of the work of this lab, which is part of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. And Virgil here is going to show me how much money can take.
Okay, the chemicals we use are 1% sulfuric acid, sodium hydroxide 2%, bleach, carbon tet may be used by a dry cleaner.
How long do these sit here?
We leave them in 24 hours, so we'll take them out tomorrow.
Wow, and it'll, after 24 hours in sulfuric acid, your 20 will survive. It'll still be a usable bill.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Picked randomly from the millions printed, Virgil mimics what the average Joe can throw at his money. And then some.
We will soak this note in 2% sodium hydroxide, some denatured alcohol. If you please write 267 any place on the note. The Federal Reserve wants to know, and the people that use it, is this money going to handle ordinary use? Toss the notes in, please.
Throw them on in there, yep.
And we want it to be a square. We're going to roll it one direction.
Okay.
And put it in the crumple machine.
This bill goes through terrible things. Poor Andrew Jackson.
I don't see any ink loss on this one.
Note survives. But cash does eventually wear out. And when it does, the Fed plucks it from circulation at currency centers like Iraq.
So what happens with these deposits that goes through the machine is sensors are checking for the quality of that money.
Right.
And it's through a series of light emissions in a note.
Yeah.
And based on that, it decides whether it's a good note or bad note.
Yeah, sure.
If it's a good note, it goes to the vault and it's recirculated.
Right.
If it's not, it goes into a shredder, it sucks down the tube.
No kidding.
And goes into
They destroy it right here.
Right here. Right
So
here.
when you say bad note, I mean, we're talking like a torn note, or one that's got dirt, schmutz on it.
Worn.
Right. So, for instance, like if
Well,
I've
I can't really, you're not supposed to bring any money out here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
It turns out that having cash in your pocket is a security breach.
Something my wife gave me, right?
I love Jake. Okay, no.
Has a nice thing on it. This would get rejected.
That would be destroyed.
That would be destroyed. Immediately.
I'm going to have to
Pick
ask
that
you to put
up.
that
I'm sorry.
away.
I'm sorry. Sure, I'll put it away. But so let's say that the kind of currency that I would have in my pocket, right, or that anybody has in their wallet, they, I take it to the bank, I deposit it there. Eventually, all the money that people have in their wallets makes its way through a machine like this?
So at some point in time, I would think it would.
In rare and extreme cases, the Fed faces a job that is simply too big for the machines to process and shred. In the months following Hurricane Katrina, the Fed spent a number of weeks burning millions of water-soaked, moldy bills. In all, over 190 million worth of cash. The Fed's most important job during a crisis is to keep money available. Imagine if our ATMs ran dry. Yet when the unthinkable happens, moving money can become a logistical nightmare in an instant.
Aircraft involved this morning, American Airlines Flight 11, Boston to Los Angeles. That was the first.
What we're about to show you is footage captured on 9/11 from the many New York Federal Reserve security cameras.
We really never even got to that close to the building. The explosion blew and it knocked everybody over.
These images have never been broadcast before.
We're here, not 500 feet from where the Trade Center stood. And I remember it, even though it was more than 10 years ago, like it was yesterday, this incredible noise.
We started to see paper raining in the sky.
When the South Tower collapsed, there was this enormous dust cloud.
And then you felt the heat, a block and a half away, through the window of that fireball. You could actually feel the heat against your face.
We looked up at our cameras and saw our officers. I think the quote was, "They're running, that's not good, why are they running?"
It was like midnight when that dust cloud enveloped this building. So what the officers did down on the ground floor is they changed the normal command